When you first unbox your controller, you're going to see that there is a round device on the side of it plugged into the USB. Never, ever unplug this device. This is the radio module that allows the controller and the tools to communicate. Older controllers will have an antenna coming out the bottom. Newer controllers will have this external USB radio, because that is the communications between the tool and the controller, and without it, you have nothing. When you power it up, it'll be configured for a single tool to the controller, unless the distributor has updated the license for multi-tool. We do sell multi-tool licenses for 2, 4, or 6 tools. The controller that we're using today for this demonstration has a 6-tool license. Anything that I show you today on this presentation through the PC, you can do the same things on the controller screen itself, minus couple small things that we'll get into later. Some things are available just on the browser. The controller has a web server built into it. The screen on the controller itself is a web browser, just like the web browser you see on the screen in front of you. Okay. In order to access the controller, you just type in the IP address. If you don't know the IP address, you can walk up to the controller, you can look at it. So on mine, port number 1 is at 192.168.1.200. The second port is at 176.168.5.6. The first port is used for plant communications for different protocols, as well as for setup and configuration like this. The second port is used for field bus communications for Ethernet IP or Profinet if you're using that type of communication. If you're not using that field bus, you can use the second port to plug in your laptop and be able to do the setup and programming like we're doing today. Today, though, I have set up where I'm connected on the first port. The controller by itself does nothing without a tool. In order to be able to connect a tool to the controller, there's a few things we need to do. First thing you need to do is log in. You log in by clicking this little icon over here that looks like a person, or it's supposed to. And the default username is admin, and the password is Ingersoll, all lowercase. You press the login button, and now your menu button becomes available. That was grayed out before. And you also have a wireless icon that is enabled now, and you have help. The first thing, though, before we can do anything with the tools, is make sure that they are at the correct software version. Every tool comes with a USB cable, so you need to plug it into any one of the 4 USB ports of the controller. Make sure your tool has a battery that is charged, and you insert the battery, make sure the tool's powered up, and then you plug in your USB cable.
And I guess it's got to have the battery to be sure it can check the MCE, right?
Correct. So if there is a software mismatch, this screen will come up, this pop-up, and it shows you what your current version is and the recommended version. For the display, we're good. In this case, the motor controller is different. I can click this update button next to the MCE, follow the prompts, and it will update. I'm not going to do that right now because I have a test version on there, and would take several minutes in order for that to accomplish. right? But for right now, that's what you would do. Later on, we're going to go into these wireless settings below, but just be aware that this pop-up does show the wireless settings as well.
And Chris, are there any scenarios where there's an old enough version that it can't be upgraded by what's on the controller?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're migrating from like PCMs to INSIGHTqcx controllers, and the PCMs and ICS were at older versions, if the tool display version says 2 dot something, that is too old of a version to be upgraded by the controller. You need to connect it with ICS to a newer version of ICS and upgrade it to a 3 dot something version. That includes a 3-step process where it loads a temp file to the tool, and then it applies a bootloader update, and then applies the new firmware. So you're going to have to be unplugging and plugging in multiple times. Once you have it at that newer rev, then you can go. If your tool is already at a 3 dot something or higher, or if you had a 1-to-1 version of this and you're upgrading to the MTC compatible software, then you're already good. It'll update automatically. So when we do this though, tools that may be on the shelf, tools that come from the factory may not be at the compatible version of the controller. So anytime you do a firmware update of the controller, anytime you get a new controller, you want to make sure that the tools that you're going to use with that controller are at the compatible version for that controller. The next thing we're going to need to do is make sure that we choose the correct channel and power level for this application. There's 2 scenarios here that we need to be aware of. One is if you want to set this up in the tool crib first and then take it out onto the line after you have everything configured, or if you're setting it up on the line directly. We're going to go through that offline mechanism first, right? The reason being is a lot of times a distributor, a lot of times a customer will want to vet things first outside of production before deploying it. And we're going to click the menu button. People call it a hamburger. It doesn't really look like a hamburger to me, but that's the technical term for that icon. So if you hear anybody say press the hamburger, that's what they mean. But I'll say menu button going forward. We're going to go to diagnostics. We're going to go to energy scan. There are 2 options, half a second and 1 second. I always pick 1 second. It gives me the most accurate, but it also takes the longest. What's going to happen is it's going to look at the energy on each channel for 1 second, and then it's going to provide us a graph. And so we're going to know what channels are busy and which channels are quiet based off of this graph. So if I look at this, I can tell right away channels 19 and 20 are not channels I want to use. Channel 23 is looking pretty good right now. So in this room, channel 23 is where I want to be. So I will click on either the wireless icon or wireless tools in the menu. It's up to you. They both take you to the exact same place, right? But I tend to use the wireless icon because out of habit. On the screen, there's 2 options, radio settings and LAN settings. You can ignore LAN settings for now. This is for the up-and-coming Wi-Fi tool that we're just getting ready to do some preliminary field trials with. So there's nothing that you need to do there. It has nothing with the current QX tools that we have, right? The radio settings is. So you're going to click on the right arrow button And we said channel 23 was where we wanted to be. Power